Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street, NOLA, and I'm here to talk about this new moon in Virgo that's happening tonight on September 6th around 8 p.m. Central Time. It's like, I think 7:40 something or 7:50 something when it's at its peak. So it'll be happening for us in the United States on Monday and then for the rest of the world on Tuesday. And you know, I think it's kind of neat that it's happening on Monday because Monday is Moon Day, and it's also about fertility, and new moons are about planting seeds. So I think this is, actually I know this is a very special new moon. If we use the word special, it is a gift, if you will. All 5 personal planets are interacting with the outer planets, and that is very rare. A grand trine is also happening with this new moon. Also, Mercury is squaring Chiron today, so be mindful of maybe how your words may come across, but also be mindful of if words are spoken to you and they hurt your feelings. Be mindful of that and check in on yourself and think, why is that, right? Because Chiron is the wounded healer, right? And so we've been bringing up a bunch of things, lifetimes, if you will, of things that are being healed. And, it's important to realize too with Virgo, Virgo with this new moon is about healing. So if someone says something to you that kind of hurts your feelings, kind of check in on yourself and say, like, how am I interpreting this? Why is this hurting my feelings? Is this something that I'm still healing? Or, needs my attention to be healed? So let's get into this, right? So there's a lot going on. I have notes. Okay, so, and also I will list aid that you can send to Louisiana. Thank you, everybody, for checking in on me and my friends in New Orleans. It's what they say, NOLA strong, it's resilient, so I'll be back there. I drop supplies off on Wednesday, and then I'll be back hopefully this Wednesday or Thursday. So things are moving. Power's getting restored. So, but like I said, I'll list information for relief. Okay, so like I said, all the personal planets are connecting to an outer planet today with this new moon. The sun and the moon are in Virgo side by side, so when they're together, it's a new moon, right? They're dark, they're in deep conversation with each other, right? So new moons are where we usually plant seeds, right? I want to say the word impregnate, right? But it's like it's where we put our ideas, it's where we, things are fertile, the void is fertile, right? So it's very important to maybe make those lists and, or ideas and kind of sit with ourselves and meditate, right? And see where we want to go forward. So, there's a lot going on. So, there's a lot going on, right? Like everywhere, it's like in the entire world. So, let's talk about the trines. Okay, like I said, all the personal planets are connecting with outer planets, and this is extremely rare. So, the first trine we'll talk about is that the sun and the moon is trining Uranus. Okay, and what a trine means is that these planets are in good flow, good conversation. Okay, so the sun and the moon in Virgo is trining Uranus, our buddy Uranus, right? The disruptor, right? The cosmic mind. And Uranus is still retrograde in Taurus. And we talked about Uranus retrograde in Taurus all last summer and how it was just churning through and disrupting what we value, because Taurus is like what we value and what we find value in, right? So the sun and the moon are trining with this Uranus, right? And so what this is doing, Uranus is going to bring in, it's the cosmic mind, it's quick, it's liberation, right? It's manifestation, right? It's new ideas, right? It's the cosmic mind. It's how we are now kind of listening to our hearts, as we talked about over the months. Let's see, it's divine timing. Also, it's good to remember Virgo is an earth sign, Taurus is an earth sign, right? So that's really interesting, I think, too. So, you know, Virgo is about being, is helping and being practical. So when these new ideas or new manifestations or divine timings coming in, we're going to see how we can apply them, being practical about it, right? When before maybe it seemed like, oh, this is a great idea, it's the pie in the sky, but actually it's like, oh wait, this pie is in my hand and now I can ingest it and move on, right? So this is a lot of quick movement today with this conversation, with Uranus and the sun and the moon. Okay, so but this is also like bringing in, once again, healing. This is very healing. Like, I know there's a lot going on everywhere, but this new moon is all about healing, which sometimes can be a little uncomfortable, right? But it is about healing, and moving forward. I am going out to say I really feel like this new moon is about ending karmic patterns and karmic cycles, because this is so rare what's happening, and because this first trine, you know, I know I like to say the word magic, but it is magic, right? It is this whole new energy coming in to Virgo, to the sign of Virgo, right? With this trine with Uranus. So I didn't sleep last night. So even when I stumble through this shit, I've got like 6 pages and like no sleep. So, but it's all this energy coming in, and it wasn't like my mind was racing, but I can just feel like things are shifting. And with other shifts, it would be like very vibrational and I would be very buzzy, and this isn't. So I hope you guys are able to kind of get on that wave where like things are shifting. It might be a little uncomfortable, but it's not too buzzy, mainly because there's so many other things probably that we have that have our attention right now. So let's go to the second trine. So our first trine is the sun and moon trining Uranus, and that's still retrograde in Taurus, you know. But this does signal quick changes, right? So if you were hoping things were like quickly change, a bunch of us could probably say, oh shit, yeah, things did change really quickly here. For a lot of us, real fast, right? So that's kind of picking up on that theme. Okay. The other trine is Mars, and it's in 23 degrees of Virgo, and it is almost an exact trine to Pluto, which is retrograde in Capricorn, right? And so, you know, Mars went through that huge transformation last year when it was just getting zapped by Uranus. I can't remember this big three: Uranus, Pluto, and something else, right? They were trining. So, or they were just reconfiguring the energy to all these planets. So Mars is trining Virgo. Mars is in Virgo, and it is trining Pluto, which is retrograde in Capricorn. And this is, you know, my best friend, one of my best friends, is a Capricorn. And she always makes the plans for everything because I know she's going to do them correctly, and she thinks of everything, and she checks all the boxes. And she even checks boxes that I didn't even know existed. You know, but that's Capricorn. Capricorn likes to work. Capricorn likes to, is detail oriented, you know. And so with Mars in conversation with Pluto, Pluto's the transformer, right? Pluto transforms things, right? We're always like, Pluto's death, you know, great, perfect. But it is this new beginning, right? And Mars is that get up and go, right? So Mars trining Pluto is, you know, wanting us to dive deeper in ourselves, you know, in ourselves. This is a deeply reflective dive about who we are now and what we think our life mission is and what we're here to do, right? Because it is really, you know, Mars is not the old alpha male that it used to be, right? Mars has been reborn, if you will, right? And here he is talking with Pluto and Capricorn, and it's like, okay, Mars, you've been reborn. Who are you now? How are you coming across now in this divine masculine way? And we need to ask ourselves, how are we moving forward with the divine masculine way? Like, what are we here to do, right? Because Mars is doing. So this is the maybe what our soul mission is, right? Like it's all these things. Like this is the conversation it's having today. Lots of talking going on with with Pluto in Capricorn, right? So we have that going on, right, as well. Okay. Let's see. So it says, I say Mars and Virgo, body energy, what feels right for you. Oh yeah, that's right. So how are we transforming, right? We were talking about Mars, like Mars is, the body, like how are we maybe thinking of new ways of working out. I know this is very surface level, but I mean, that's important, right? Like you want to keep your vessel strong, right? So there's that in there too. So that's really important as well. Okay, I'm trying to find my third trine here, my friends. Okay. All right, hold on, that's my square. Keep with me. This is when we would put in music, but I don't have any. Okay, so let's just go with the notes. Okay, so Venus, so this is not a trine, but a square. Right now, Venus is in 25 degrees of Libra, and it's squaring Pluto, right? So Venus squaring Pluto does sort of revolve around relationships, right? Venus is our self-worth. So we have Mars that is trining, talking with Pluto, right, in a flow, which is like, where are we going? How are we doing this? What's our energy? How have we been transformed in our new divine masculine way? And how are we even transforming our bodies? And then Venus is squaring Pluto, which means there's a tension there, right? So it's not a flow, but like they're playing chess, right? And Pluto is challenging Venus in a good way, right? He's kind of like, he's like the coach, who knows you're really good and doesn't want to hear it, right? Like, it's just, if Pluto is just holding space for Venus to basically put her money where her mouth is, right? So Venus is squaring Pluto. I have relationship themes. So how I'm reading this is that we, in the theme of the divine feminine, have made a lot of changes, right? We've put new boundaries up. We've said we're not going to do this anymore. We've said this is who we are now. And I mean, we could spend another hour on how we see this, how we've seen this play out over the last, 6 years or so, right? And so Pluto is saying, okay, now's the time. You've transformed, right? Transformation. You've transformed. You said these are how you're going to be in relationships now, whether it's coworkers, family, fill in the blank. You know what I mean by relationships. Relationships with yourself, this is how you are going to hold yourself accountable, right? So now is the time to do that. And how are you going to do that? And it could feel uncomfortable, right? Because if you set that boundary and and I can just say, with me with boundary, I've set boundaries and then I'm holding them and then I, start to feel guilty, or I start to feel like, oh no, if this, and then I just have to say, no, we're setting this boundary and we're releasing all that guilt. It's not true. It's just guilt, and you keep moving through it, right? But it's uncomfortable, right? Because these lower egoic feelings are coming up while we're holding ourselves to what we said was true, right? So that's happening today as well. Okay. Let's see. Oh, what's also interesting is that because Venus is 25 degrees of Libra, right? While she's squaring Pluto. So Venus is going to want to do everything to keep herself in balance, okay? And keep relationships in balance, right? Which means holding those boundaries, right? If you start to feel like, oh, no, you got to come back, right? Or this is asking too much. Okay, no, we got to come back, right? And it can be in anything right now, like a lot of people are volunteering, if it's getting to be overwhelming, you got to come back, okay? It's just what's on my mind right now. But anyway, you can fill in the blank, right? So because she's in Libra, she's going to want to keep things in balance, which is good. And also it's Venus, right? She wants to talk. She wants to soothe, right? And she's in this new moon energy too. So the moon is also soothing, right? It's that feminine. So even if things feel a little crunchy or a little stalematey, if you will, just, talk to yourself and say, like, we've been through a lot. This is the time. We're going to hold firm in these boundaries. It's totally okay. But what's interesting is she's at 25 degrees of Libra. And when Mercury goes retrograde at the end of the month, he's going to retrograde at 25 degrees of Libra, right? So this is very interesting. So we'll get back to that when that comes around. But I feel like maybe what feels a little comfortable is probably what we're going to keep talking about and going over and refining while this Mercury retrograde happens, in a good way, right? Like it's going to just figure out a better way so it doesn't feel uncomfortable basically anymore. Okay, so let's go. And I do have written down, like, Pluto and Capricorn can be about power dynamics, or we feel like maybe where the other had more power, or we were allowing that power to be given away. And so if that is what you are working with, stay grounded, stay strong, stay in your power, because Venus is in Libra. She's going to keep that balance, right? And it's going to basically feel worse if you get out of balance. So being a little uncomfortable to keep these boundaries, Venus boundaries strong, which is, self-worth too. So, how much money you make, keep those boundaries, right? Just kind of be like, and also with Virgo, Virgo can be like the martyr, as we say, when they're in their lower energy. So it's very important, if things are being presented to you or coming up, to listen to all the facts, Mercury, which rules Virgo, by the way. And when you come back to the table or whatever, you tell them exactly what you want. Okay, this is not the time to keep being like, well, I'll take less. Those days are over. Okay, those days are over. And we have to get comfortable with living in that energy of abundance and knowing that lack is over. This just is, right? So we have to get comfortable with that. We have to get comfortable with saying, like, yeah, this is my self-worth, right? Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Hey, that's way too many hours. But, all those things. So, Mercury, when Mercury does go into retrograde, that's just a way we'll be talking all those things out, and how we'll get more comfortable with presenting this to the world, right? Just right now, just be uncomfortable and hold your boundaries. Okay. All right. So now I say, okay, right now Mercury is trining. So this is our third trine. And this is when we get into the grand air trine too. So it's already 18 minutes. I'm sorry this is so long, but there's a lot going on with this new moon. So right now Mercury is trining Saturn, okay, which is still retrograde in Aquarius, okay? And also the North Node in Gemini, okay? And then, so this is what's making the Grand Trine, which we had one at the last full moon, and now we're having one now, which is really interesting. So, Gemini is going to make you want to ask the right questions, right? Because that's what Gemini does. It's the twins, and then I think it's interesting that that's two, and then Venus is in Libra, which is trying to keep things in balance, right? So Saturn, Homie Saturn gets a lot of bad raps, right? Like just being like stringent and the time creeper and no fun, but I think Saturn is also actually about boundaries. And Saturn wants to make sure things are stable, right? So Mercury is in this trine, this grand trine with them, right? So we're having this conversation about how can we keep things stable, right? What are we talking about in the long term, right? So as in Virgo is practical right now, but which you can start putting in this foundation right now. Saturn is going to keep us talking about how we can make this long term, which is great because we are talking a lot about infrastructure in many, many ways, right? So in our lives, in other people's lives. So this is good that this is all happening right now. Mercury is in Libra right now, which is, Mercury's in Libra, right? So this, which is making this grand trine, which is also, we're talking about keeping things in balance. Also Mercury being in Libra right now with this grand trine is a mature Mercury, which is going to be able for us to just to talk about things without, when I say in a mature way, I want to say like also in an emotional way, right? So it's just like the facts. You know, of course I'm thinking of the abortion, right? That abortion bill. We're going to be talking a lot about that, and we're going to be able to have an actual conversation about that, and hopefully, not even hopefully, I know we will, like women's reproduction rights, right? When before we couldn't talk about that because it was like whatever. But Mercury's mature, and we're going to have this talk, right? So that's great. And once again, talking about what's going to be happening long term, right? With Saturn, with Gemini, asking these questions, and I'm just making that towards that situation. You can apply this to any situation that's happening right now in your life, right? But so this was the grand trine that we're in. Okay, so it says Mercury and Venus are in Libra, or it will be entering Libra because Mercury and Venus are, Mars is entering Libra, sorry, it's activation. All right, here's our third trine. I knew it was somewhere in here. We're at 22 minutes. Venus is trining Jupiter, okay, which is supporting the people. So, Jupiter is expansion, Jupiter is luck, Jupiter is the maintenance of faith. So we have today, on one hand, Venus is squaring Pluto, which is holding us to the fire and making sure we're setting those boundaries. And then it's trining Jupiter. Venus is trining Jupiter, so she's in a good conversation, So Jupiter, may even be saying like, this is good that you're doing this, it's your cheerleader, because if you do this way, look how much opportunity will open up for you over here, right? So if all your energy is being sucked with one thing over here and you can hold that boundary and put up that wall, you can say, oh, okay, well, that's secure. All right, so look over here. Look at all the opportunity over here. Even if you can't see the opportunity, it's that faith within yourself, knowing that it's over there. And so that's really important. It says it's inspiration. It's positive. So, and then it does balance, which she's in Libra. So it's balancing that square from Pluto. So it says, I have written down directs the Aquarius energy. Remembering that you have choices. Always remember that. That's been coming up huge. I've been saying that to people all the time. And it's just, you always have choices. You always have opportunities. And sometimes we forget that when we're in the muck and the mire. But we always have opportunities. We always have choices, And sometimes we think of opportunities as like the golden egg, right? But no, anything can be an opportunity, right? I have the opportunity to go to the bathroom. I have the opportunity to get a drink of water, right? So just remember that, especially with this Virgo new moon, right? Virgo being, practical in this, at this time, right? And also when you're setting up these boundaries and, Venus is trining Jupiter and you're seeing all these other opportunities, you don't have to make a list because we're not in Capricorn, which Capricorn's an earth sign, and Taurus is an earth sign and Virgo is an earth sign. So there's a lot going on in earth signs. You can do 2 things a day. Virgo is very practical when it's in its higher self, right? And it knows I can do these 2 things today. I can help these 2 people out. It's very, Virgo likes to help. Like we said, it's the maiden, the blessed mother. But when it's in its lower form, it's martyrdom. It's critical. Hates everything. I'm just kidding, but we can all get like that. But it's real snarky, It doesn't like things when it's in its lower form, but when it's in its higher form, and with this Venus and Jupiter, that would be taking you to this, it's a bigger perspective, right? So let's try to stay in these higher vibes, right? Because there is so much going on. But it is, we're coming to the end of this, don't worry. So, but it is a very, as you can see, powerful new moon. It is very rare that all the personal planets are talking to the outer planets. But it's go time. The time is now, right? Like, let's get going, right? So we got this. Like, there's a lot going on, and so you guys take time out, meditate. Be sure self-care is huge right now, and it's really important to see where we're healing with this new moon, and with all these things going on. It's important to see how far we've come. It's important to take stock within ourselves, you know, because Virgo is mutable, and it does like to help and be with the other, right? So make sure we take that time to reflect with ourselves. So I hope you guys, thank you for hanging in here with me. This is 26 minutes long. If you guys have any questions, feel free to Instagram me. I am going to upload this to the YouTube channel, this epic video. You guys, but have a great new moon. We'll be back to talk about, obviously, Mercury in retrograde and the Pisces full moon coming up. But really, I'm proud of everybody. The last years, but like this last 6 months have been super, super intense. And I do feel like we've turned a corner in a sense with a lot of things. And I do really feel like this is ending a lot of karmic cycles for a lot of us. Okay. And also know, if you come across this video and you're like, oh no, this is like 2 months from now, this is the message that you need to hear now, right? You need to hear, like, you've done the work and these karmic cycles are ending and we are starting a new pattern. Okay. All right. Much love to you guys. Thank you so much. And I'll see you soon.